Oh, hey Ludo, what are you doing? Trying to make the best game ever? It looks like you're just taking everything you like from other games and just smushing them together. That's right, is it? Okay, yeah, we need to talk about this, Ludo. Just like with the rest of the games industry, you're infected. And to get rid of it, we've got to chop your legs off. Quadruple amputation. It's a joke, but seriously, you are infected, but to get rid of it, we first need to understand it. So we're all guilty of this, myself included, seeing our favourite games and thinking, well, if I just take what works from here and then from over there and just combine them together, it's going to make the best game ever, right? Wrong, and you'd be forgiven for thinking like this. It's something that's kind of inherent to us as human beings, well, and dogs too, I guess, because we're all in a cargo cult. Yeah, fair, that was kind of out of nowhere. So being part of a cargo cult, or cargo cult programming or thinking, comes from a truly fascinating place. Sit down, Ludo, story time. During the conflicts of World War II, many small Pacific islands were used for US military purposes and refueling ammunition storage and such. And on these islands, there were indigenous people who had little to no interaction with Western culture, their technologies or customs. While stationed here, the US Army would use boats and planes to drop cargo to these islands, bringing clothes, food and entertainment, which these bases would then share with the island's people to keep relations good. But then the war ended, the US completely abandoning these islands and destroying the military bases. But this is where things get interesting. Many years later, as scientists and explorers returned to these islands, they discovered the inhabitants had attempted to recreate the army bases in their entirety, runways, radio towers and even planes, all completely out of wood and stone, because it was their belief that in erecting these idols, it would cause the bountiful gifts to drop from the sky and come from the sea. They had formed a cult around this, and this is where the term cargo cult thinking comes from. It's where we as humans attempt to recreate a process for a desired outcome without truly understanding the process itself. This can be seen here with the indigenous people's attempt to summon the planes without understanding what planes actually are, but for a simpler example, let's look at it from a gamer's perspective. Now, I was off playing World of Warcraft, as I usually do because I'm a cretin, and we're doing some dungeons, and in this specific dungeon, there's this massive frog boss, where to do it successfully on the harder difficulties, the players would need to stand in two very specific positions, and through the game systems, you can place markers on the ground to signify where to stand. So we get into the boss arena, and my friend, who's playing the tank and is ostensibly in charge, places these markers. What's sick? He knows what he's doing, we are all good. Oh gosh fuck! We failed instantly, because no one did the mechanics at all. So on the run back to the boss, I start going over the mechanics so everyone can understand exactly what to do. And I say to my friend, oh well, you placed the markers so you obviously already know what you're doing, right? And he goes,
nope.
What do you mean you don't know what to do?
Well, whenever I've done the dungeon before, I've seen other people place the markers down, so I just do that too.
Mate, that is one of the most sponge-brained things I have ever heard in my life. You're imitating the only superficial part of the process without understanding exactly why they're done in the first place, not moving yourself or your team forward, but giving you this false sense of knowing exactly what's up. Dude, you need to take a long, hard look at yourself in the mirror. Not only are you in a cargo cult, you're a dickhead. Now, the problem is, we don't just see this in weird World of Warcraft edge cases, we see it everywhere, from politics to programming. But the biggest sinners of all are game devs. Alright, firstly, let's get this straight, you sensitive bunch. Not every game dev is guilty of this kind of mindset, but it is extremely easy to fall into. The biggest places we see this is in the perceived success of a certain game and the systems responsible for that success. And for an example, Breath of the Wild. It's a critical and commercial success, so game devs go, well, it must be the climbing mechanic, that's gotta be why, so they copy that one system verbatim without fully understanding the minutiae of why that mechanic worked within the context of the rest of its systems. Some devs are stuck in this never-ending loop of building those runways and radio towers, waiting for the foretold planes to drop that cargo, and by runways I mean copying anything from software I've done in the last 15 years, and by cargo I mean waiting for anyone to actually give a shit. And no, contrary to what the internet will have you believe, it's not all about bonfires and Dark Souls. Well, yeah, fair, it was just a good example, alright? But for a broader example, let's look at the cancer of the industry, the RPGification of games. By this, I mean that devs, well actually executives, saw the addiction loop nature of certain games like, say, World of Warcraft, and how they handled loot and levels, causing this seemingly never-ending loop for players to get hooked on. The executives then forced that into their games without understanding exactly what makes those systems so engaging. Those games then do well in spite of these systems because of their strong intellectual properties, which causes this trickle-down effect where other games start to copy those games because they think that levels and loot is what made them so popular. It's this never-ending loop. This kind of cult worship is the exact kind of thing that led to the bastardization of the ass-in sequel to Rocky's franchise, and I'm sure you can name a host of other series that have been tainted by this. But this taint wasn't caused by leveling systems. They're not the enemy. Cargo cult thinking is. Not understanding where and why certain mechanics should exist in your game. And to be honest, I don't even think it's the devs' fault, because I think the games industry is uniquely cursed in this regard. No, not a literal curse, like a metaphorical one. Now, there is this wonderful learning technique coined by the legendary jazz musician Clark Terry, which says to successfully learn and grow, you need to do 3 things. The first is imitate, copy the pros to emulate their success. Then, assimilate, understand why they did the things they did and why it might not work for you. And then finally, iterate, find the nuances and develop your own unique strategy that works for your vision. Now, going through these 3 processes is how we learn and grow, but what really sucks is that game developers commonly get stuck at this first stage because of the cutthroat nature of the industry. Because games take so long to make and are so expensive to produce, the industry disincentivizes assimilation or iteration. The studio heads or publishers don't want to risk trying out new ideas and potentially bankrupting the entire studio when they could just attempt to imitate what prospectively worked from other successful games. But just this imitation could lead to bankruptcy anyway, creatively and monetarily, because the audience could see your game as just a poor imitation of something else they liked, writing off your studio completely. Because of this risk, devs don't get the chances to breathe that they would need to grow and push the industry forward, constantly attempting to churn out what they think will make their games a commercial success, but in reality could lead to their downfalls. The best games we've seen come out in the last few decades have come from studios that have either been given the opportunities to get to this iteration stage through past successes or a hefty bank balance, like with FromSoft and Elden Ring, or by having publishers and studios willing to take a risk on a new innovative idea, like with Hooded Horse or Double Fine. But not everyone is so lucky when millions of dollars and hundreds of livelihoods are on the line. The best games we've seen from the indie space have come from devs who have previously been entrenched in the AAA sphere and have gone through this imitate and assimilate process while they've been at these studios, but now their shackles have been taken off, they've been able to iterate and create some of the most unique games we've ever seen. But this just leads to more cargo cult thinking in the indie space, causing oversaturation of specific genres. I'm definitely looking at something behind you, Stardew Valley, don't get paranoid. All I'm saying is, as a consumer or even a developer, have patience and allow devs to get to this iteration phase. Champion games that are trying something new. They might not always succeed, like with Flintlock, which has received its fair share of criticism, but at least they're trying to move the Souls-like formula forward in a new direction, rather than worshipping the bonfire cult, waiting for those planes to arrive. But the real question is, what do you think? Are you sick of seeing the same gameplay mechanics regurgitated over and over because of a lack of understanding? And can you think of a time where you in your own life have been guilty of cargo cult thinking? I definitely have in the past and probably in the future too. Let us know down below because we'd love to discuss this with you. Alright, okay. Oh, yep. Hey, fuckers, if you enjoy this show and you want more of it, why don't you check out my podcast, DevHeads, where me, Tina, and Mikey get to sit down and discuss game dev stuff with our industry friends. Last episode we had Tim Schafer on, which was a fucking blast. And if you're a fellow dev and you want to come on the show as well, hit me up on Twitter. Alright, Ludo, say goodbye. Alright, bye-bye, guys.
This video is brought to you by Game Maker, the free, fast, and easy-to-use 2D game engine that helps power modern classics like Undertale, Hotline Miami, and Hyper Light Drifter. Starter templates, official asset bundles, and a wealth of tutorials are available to help bring your ideas to life. And you can export and share your game for free on all non-console platforms. But you don't have to take my word for it, I'm just some jerk. We have an actual bona fide game maker on hand.
Oh shit, that's me. Yes, I've been using GameMaker for a long time. It's probably the most powerful and easiest to use engine for making 2D games out there, suitable for both amateurs and hardcore coders, and with all the Steam and console integration stuff for when you're ready to start monetizing your hobbies. I used it to make my recently released game, Starstruck Vagabond, which has already delighted thousands of sci-fi cozy game aficionados, thanks to GameMaker being so bloody great.
Head on over to the GameMaker link in the description to begin your game development journey today.